Hi, I'm going to tell you about my learnings and gatherings from Driven by Data, chapters 5 and 6. In chapter 5, the author talked about overcoming obstacles in attempting to implement a data driven instruction culture in a school. An overview of the chapter would include a pre assessment in the beginning where a school could take that. It takes 1 to 3 minutes for those leaders to take that. That's a survey or assessment regarding leadership, assessment, analysis, and action, the four backbone criteria for the DDI implementation. There's a chart following that recommended steps to grow in the case of a non-proficient status was reached on the rubric, and then he ended with some frequently asked questions for the process. Before you understand any of that or implement anything, we have to understand assessment. So there were formative assessments and interim assessments. The assessments that we would be analyzing in a DDI process would be interim assessments, where they're given 4 to 6 times a year at the end of a learning cycle, every 6 to 8 weeks. They're cumulative, and they check retention for the students. Formative assessments are those that we give in the moment during learning. Exit tickets may be students writing on whiteboards, and that occur usually at the end of a daily lesson. So we would be interested in the interim assessments. If the district doesn't have interim assessments, there are some options. A district could build their own, modeled after the state assessment, which would take some time. A school could check with neighboring districts to see if they could borrow theirs and if it fit their content, or could, as a last resort, not really advise to do this, but purchase from an outside agency. The school would just need to be sure to see the assessment to be sure it fits their needs before purchasing. And analyzing results, teacher analysis is really key. The reports that teachers get about their data should only be 1 page per class rather than a ring full of binders or a ring full of papers. The analysis should be timely. It should occur within 3 to 7 days of the test, not to wait to do the analysis. And the analogy was given in the book about the fact that we don't wait to go to the doctor until we're dead. We go to assess our issues. And so in the process, so we can go back and reteach, we'd want to discuss that data with our department and have data meetings with our principal to schedule reteaches and actions that would follow. There were 3 types of analysis that typical teachers go through. We look at the question level analysis. How did certain students do on certain questions? We look at a standards level analysis and compare questions that measure the same standard and see if the question was good or maybe if there was a skill set that students were missing. And there's an overall analysis where maybe we compare all of our classes to each other, or our classes to another teacher's classes, or maybe our school to another school. The process for implementing data-driven instruction includes 4 major processes or 4 major steps. Assessment that we just talked about. We want to analyze those results. We just talked about that. There's action that follows the analysis. Where do we go from here? What meetings do we need to have? What do we need to reteach exactly? What did kids not get? And all of that process leads to ownership if it's handled correctly. That improves culture and teacher buy-in. In other words, in this DDI process, I was impressed to see that leaders don't have to wait for buy-in because the process will create the buy-in. Chapter 6 focused on adult professional development, and the author mentioned that effective professional development responds to needs and allows participants time to practice. So some common errors with adult PD may be that the trainer talks too much, teaching by talking. Maybe the guided practice is kind of like how we do for kids, and the adults learn best by doing. They need more hands-on. We're not targeting leaders. Maybe we're teaching to teachers and we're not teaching to leaders. Large group sharing and poor time management can kind of go hand in hand, where that gets a little bit more difficult the larger the audiences are. But we want to follow the data. So if we get data from observations, walkthroughs, student achievement, school needs, culture surveys, we can follow the data and implement the process from there. We would want to narrow our focus and have the highest leverage objective be what we follow. We would want those objectives to be bite-sized or small enough to handle, and so they would be measurable. And then we want to see it, help the participants see it with a video clip or the presenter modeling, give it a common name so we put words to it, and then have the participants have time to practice the process, because perfect practice makes perfect. And if they don't practice it, they don't learn it. I hope this helped. Thank you.